Welcome, everybody, to another great CEO podcast. I'm here with Len Finkle from Profisee. Welcome, Len.
Thank you, Jim. It's great to be here.
I appreciate you making the time for this. It's great. So maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what Profisee does.
You bet. So we develop, sell, and implement data management software. And what data management software does is it does two key things that are really important in today's world where everything is so focused on data. Number one, and it's sold to enterprise corporations. And what we do is first we help improve the quality of people's data. And that can be getting rid of errors, reducing or eliminating duplications, and enhancing data. That's the first thing we do. The second thing we do, harmonize data, because in today's world of the cloud, every corporation's data is spread out in so many different places.
Right.
So while we go out and we improve the quality of these systems and the data in various systems, we also have to harmonize it for the customer, because very often the data is correct. It's just stored differently. Like it might be Len in one system or Leonard in another. And we help harmonize that. And that's really the basis for all these companies that want to digitally transform themselves. You hear so much about. Well, you can only do that with high quality data. And that's what Profisee makes sure that they have.
Got it. So how do you figure out truth? Right. So I got 5 different versions of Len. How do I know which one's the right? Is it Len or Leonard or Lenny, or how do I figure out which one's the right one?
Absolutely. Well, there's two key things. Sometimes they're both right, which is where the harmonization comes in. Okay. Like in business terms, International Business Machines and IBM, they're both correct.
Yep.
But you need to make sure they're harmonized. That's one.
But
there is very often incorrect data. And what we do is we have special algorithms within the system, and it helps us do all of these comparisons with artificial intelligence, machine learning, things of that nature that help us look to see for anomalies in the data or commonalities in the data. So that way we can really have the system do some of the things, like if we see Maryland spelled M without an A, then we know with all the other instances of Maryland spelled with an A, then we can take a look and say, all right, obviously the one with an A is correct. And our system learns and it gets better. And sometimes though you do need human intervention. Sure. And that's one of the differentials of our software is we automate that process. So certain things you don't want the computer to decide, you can decide the tolerance level. And for those, we automatically send it to people. They look at it and go, this one's correct, bam, and it's done.
Got it. So it's got to be supervised. Yep. Got it. So, pretty geeky data stuff, but what is your competitive advantage? I mean, I know there's other people who can do this. So why do they pick your firm?
Yeah, great question, Jim. So in our industry, there are generally 2 types of companies that can implement the stuff quickly.
Yep.
In less than, say, 90 days. And then there are other competitors that can handle the most sophisticated of needs, but it takes years and millions to implement. Profisee is the only company that delivers both. We can implement quickly and have quick wins within 90 days. And we've been recognized by third-party analysts as having the most implementations in less than 90 days. But then we can take the most sophisticated of needs and help solve those too. We have companies that literally process billions with a B of records through our system. So we're the only company that can really do both for you. In today's environment where you need quick wins fast, people don't want to wait 5 years anymore like they used to with big ERP implementations. They'd wait 3 or 4 years. There's not the tolerance. So being able to do both is a big differentiator.
Interesting. I'm amazed the big guys even exist, frankly. Like nobody waits 5 years for anything, right?
So hard. And they're working to try to get smaller. It's just hard.
Yeah. So what percentage of the revenue recurs? Is this contractual revenue or is it project based? How does the profile look?
Yeah, so the majority of our revenues are recurring revenues. Matter of fact, over 80% are recurring revenues.
Beautiful.
We do implementations. We have partners that do implementations, but we do them as well. Those aren't recurring revenues. And then lastly, Jim, again, the only reason it's not 100% is we have been around for almost 10 years. So we have customers originally that bought perpetual licenses, one-time licenses, and we're so customer focused. A lot of companies force their customers to go to their latest and greatest. we look to support those customers for as long as possible. So we do have some legacy customers that are still on the older model, and we haven't forced them to move to recurring.
Wow. I need to have you talk to my Windows ME provider. I didn't want to get off of that. So every business has a constraint, right? A kink in the hose, a thing that if you could change, it would make it a materially better business. I mean, I think you got a great business, but what would make it even better?
Well, I'll tell you what would make us even bigger is more market awareness. And you said it yourself, Jim. We compete against some of the biggest names out there. I don't mention them; they're household names.
Sure.
SAP, Oracle, Informatica, big companies that people know about. You see them on golfers' hats all the time, and we're just not that large yet. So market awareness is big for us. If you take a look at the statistics, we win competitively at an astronomical win rate. We just need to be in more wins.
Yeah.
So for us, market awareness is the biggest mover for us and the biggest impediment to our continued growth.
Got it. Yeah. Whenever I had a sales guy say, "Hey, I got a 90% win rate," I'm like, "Then you're not getting it bat often enough, right?"
Well, you see, there you go.
The problem,
that's
right?
exactly right, Jim. You got it.
Interesting. So let's move over to you a little bit. How many hours a week do you work on the business?
Yeah, it's interesting. It varies. Like most executives or people, I don't really track, but I'd say 50 to 60 hours a week is probably about how many I work.
Got it. And then thinking about it the rest of the time, right?
Yeah, of course.
And that's about average for CEOs, by the way, 50, 60. It's about right on the button.
Yeah.
So, as the business grows, we have to shed responsibilities as leaders so that, develop our people and so we can do higher value work. Can you name one major responsibility you've delegated in the last 6 months?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say the biggest thing, it's quite obvious. I just hired a CRO.
Nice.
So
were you doing the sales prior to that?
Yes, I was.
Okay,
yes, I was. It's my background, and I know part of your first question, is also around, what do I do with that time, the 50 to 60 hours, right? And so, if I look at the way I spend my time, I would say I spend about half of the time. It varies, that first half, and it varies by what is, the most critical thing for us to be doing. So I mentioned market awareness before. So I'm spending a great deal of time right now around helping the company build out our alliances program, more partners out there, which gets us more feet on the street by having more partners, things of that nature. So I'm spending a lot of time there. Another area, so that's half my time. The other half is divided into probably three other areas. One would be organizational health. I know you've been around this space a long time. You're probably familiar with the 5 dysfunctions of a leadership team. And
I think I've exhibited all of them at one point in my life.
Well, we all have. We all have. So spend a lot of time there. The other time is spent out in the field, either talking to customers or prospects. Which, by the way, I think helps a lot to help identify some of those areas that are the most meaningful, like we talked about before with market awareness. And third is around operational excellence. Making sure that all the departments have what they need, focused on the right things, have someone to bounce things off of, things of that nature. That's kind of how I try to, allocate my time out.
Perfect. That's good division, particularly the first one being, focus at the point of constraint. You obviously, my book, we talk about that. So moving over to you as a leader, if we were going to describe your leadership style, what would be the one or two things that we would use to describe you as a leader?
Yeah, absolutely. Transparent and growth minded.
Okay.
Those are, I think, two really big things. And I'll start with the second one first, and that's growth minded. And I'm sure you're familiar with the mindset, by Dr. Carol Dweck, and really having a mindset of always wanting to grow and help, and more importantly, help other people grow.
Right.
And I think that's helped our company a lot. Really creating an environment where mistakes are not only welcome but expected and encouraged. So that's really important. And the transparent part, it's really about building trust. and really getting right to the core issues and politics aside. It's really key. So I think those are two, big things that I really look to focus on, which then roll up to some of the other things we talked about with organizational health.
Got it. Interesting. We had a client we worked with that said, companies don't grow, people do. So his whole idea was just what you talked about. If I grow my people, they'll grow my business. So
Jim, there is just no doubt about it. And you talk about people all the time. People talk about people all the time. But just the more I get into this business, the more it just continues to be reinforced. That's the long pole, in the tent. When I look at things, it's you got to get the right people on board. You got to give them the ability to do what they do, and then you got to help them work together with other people. Because great things are done by groups of people, usually not one.
Yeah, not true. Last question. What do you do for fun?
Yeah, well, I'd love to spend time with my wife and our 3 dogs.
Nice.
Doing, just hanging out or, taking walks, things of that nature. And then on an individual basis, 2 things that I try to make time for are golf and riding my motorcycle.
Nice. What kind of bike you have?
So I've got a little Honda, a little Honda 750 Cruiser, and I'm up here north of Atlanta. And actually, one thing I learned about Atlanta is the northern part of the state. There's actually a lot of good mountains. I try to stay away from heavy traffic areas. I'm not a good enough bike rider to avoid other problems. So I love getting on those 2-lane roads up in the mountains. And both golf and motorcycles, I think, are 2 things. And why I like them is it does require you to be focused. You're right. It really does. And they're also, very relaxing. So I think putting those 2 things together, it's a lot of fun.
Perfect. Well, Len, this was awesome. Great interview. I really appreciate your time, and I wish you extremely good luck going forward.
Thank you, Jim. I'm honored to be on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Love to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.